Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Guy in His Garage. My name's Cam. If you saw last week's video, you know that this is a 2004 Infiniti FX35. We had a CV axle come disconnected, probably from either the bolts somehow backing out or most likely being over torqued and then snapping. So we got those replaced. We got a new CV axle in it, and the gentleman who actually owns this car decided that he wanted me to go ahead and do the front pads and rotors. So I already went ahead and put the new parts on the driver's side. But before I did that, this morning I went ahead and I pulled the starter out of it. Because if you caught last week's video, and I'll leave a link for that down in the description. As we were tightening up one of the last bolts for the axle, I looked up and identified the fact that our starter is pretty broke. So luckily I was able to locate one, and it should be ready for me to pick up around 2 o'clock this afternoon, which hopefully means we can get this car out of here and move on to some other projects. So today what we'll do is I'll take you guys through replacing the rotor and pads on the passenger side, and then once we get the new starter, we'll go ahead, get that put in, all buttoned back up, take this baby for a road test, and hopefully we'll be done. Let's get to it. Oh, one more thing. I forgot to mention it last week, and to some this isn't a big deal, but to me, with the fact that YouTube isn't something that I thought I would do, putting myself in front of a camera for however many people to watch the videos. The channel hit over 100 subscribers, so I really just want to thank all of y'all for making that happen. I mean, I've been doing this for like 6 to 7 months, and the fact that we've already hit over 100, I think we're doing pretty well. I will say this, some people have been asking about maybe hats, stickers, and shirts and such. If we hit 500 subscribers, we're going to do it. I have already started kind of putting an Instagram page for the channel together. That way there, you guys have easier, quicker access to, you know, photos of random stuff that I'm doing that might not make it onto the channel, maybe even some short videos of different things I'm doing, stuff like that. But let's get to this project. Alright guys, so obviously, like on the other side in last week's video, or in any car really, we got to remove our brake caliper, get it out of our way, and then we can take our pads off. I am going to remove the cradle because we are replacing our rotor. The other thing is I like to do, and I'll show it to you guys, is I like to clean up the actual bracket itself. One, I think it just helps it last longer by getting any dirt, rust, or anything like that that has started to form on it. Just get it off of it. And then it also allows for the hardware that goes inside the bracket to sit in there a little bit nicer and easier. So let's get to it. Alright, if I remember correctly, these should be 15s, 14s, 14. What I usually do is I'll break one side loose, get the other side broken loose, and then usually remove them at the same time. Got a small pry bar. This is where you want to be careful. Make sure that when you're prying on it, that you're not prying against the cup for the actual piston, because you can cause damage to it, and then you have to replace the caliper, and replacing calipers can be a bit of a pain because then you got to bleed the system out. All right, so we got that removed, so now we'll pull our pads out of here. Pads out. Now we'll get our bracket out of here, which I think these are 19s, because as big as I have on here is Yeah. You guys remember on the other side, these didn't want to come undone, so ow, spray them a little PB blaster. Our big ratchet, which has a little bit more leverage on it. Oh boy. Well, oh boy. Oh, there we go. That's one. Remember guys, leverage is your friend. By adding, you know, what, 2.5, 3 feet of pipe to our ratchet, gives us a lot more leverage. It makes it a lot easier to get this bolt to come undone. All right, that's our bracket. And that's our rotor. So what I'm gonna do now, guys, I got a wire wheel. I'll take it to the hub surface, clean that all up, and then we'll take our caliper bracket apart because it comes further apart than this, and we'll get that all cleaned up. Okay guys, so this is our brake caliper cradle or bracket, whatever you want to call it, right? So not everybody knows this, right? Obviously these are removable hardware that help hold your brake pads in, all right? These look different on almost every single car brand, even from model to model, right? But there's more to this. These, and honestly, don't ask me what they're called because I don't know. Right, this is what your caliper actually bolts into. And as you can see, these things are absolutely filthy. So what I'll do is I'll spray them down with some parts cleaner. Now, very similar to what we just did to the wheel hub, what I'll do is I'll take that wire wheel and I'll clean the actual bolt head up. But what's important is, right, this was in our top one. It's very important because this pin is different than this pin. This pin doesn't have this rubber grommet on it like our upper one does. Now the other thing I will also do is if these are removable, some of them, they have special retaining pieces on them that you got to fold, right? This one, luckily, they just have a little groove in here, and they have a little groove in here, and they pop on there, and that groove holds them on. So I'll actually spray these out. Try not to drop them in the trash and lose them for all of eternity. Then I'll usually just use a rag, help clean them out. All this is doing is getting that old grease that was in there out, making it so that the pins can move a little bit easier in there. And the other thing I will do is, like with the pins, I'll use the wire wheel and I'll clean the bracket up, especially where our hardware is going to go. Okay, so obviously, right, it doesn't look brand new, but that's not the point. The point is to clean it up to help it so that it functions properly and better. So some people will tell you not to use this stuff. I grew up putting freaking anti-seize on this stuff as long as I can remember. There is some specialized grease for doing it, but I've always used anti-seize, never had any issue with anti-seize, so guess what I'm using? Anti-seize. And with this stuff, you don't need a lot. Alright, get a nice even coat on in there and put it in. Now, because this one's got that rubber grommet on it, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes. There we go. Now, if you've never worked with anti-seize before, fair warning, this stuff gets on everything, and I mean everything. You get it on your hands and you'll see what I'm talking about. If you have used it before, you know what I'm talking about. Alright, so our cradle is back together. So now we can actually start putting the brake system back on the car. Alright guys, we get this new rotor out of the box. Alright, that's our new rotor. There's one of the two bolts. Where's the other one? What'd I do with it, guys? It's right there. Alright, get our rotor on there. Get our bracket back in here. Alright, let's try that again. Make sure that's good and tight. And then we'll take some anti-seize and put them on our cradle where our hardware is going to go. Top and bottom. Grab our hardware. And these just simply, actually, that's wrong way, silly goose. Get pressed down in there like that. Same thing on the top side. Now, what's important with this hardware, guys, is depending on what car you're working on, you know, you'll have different style hardware, and sometimes that hardware is position specific. You know, it might be an inside or an outside, or even an inside on the top or an inside on the bottom, or outside on top, outside on the bottom. So it's important that when you're taking it apart that you pay attention to that stuff. And another good thing to do is only take one side apart at a time, because this what allows you to do is, if you get to a spot, especially when you're putting it back together, where you're confused on how something should be or should look, right, you still have the other side to go back and reference. Now these pads are a little tricky because of the style hardware they have. And all these hardware pieces really are, guys, is they're actually retention style springs. And the whole purpose of them is to help create a little bit of separation from the pad and the rotor when the caliper isn't compressing it. Alright, so we got our pads in there. Now what we got to do is we got to compress our caliper piston here. We got to push it back in so that our caliper will go back over the pads. Okay guys, this is a special tool that is actually designed for doing this exact thing. I'll put a link in the description if you guys want for this tool. Now, this tool you don't have to have this to be able to do this job, right? If you have a really big pair of channel lock pliers, you can do this. It's just having one of these makes it a lot easier. And what's nice about it is it puts nice even pressure, especially when you have a dual piston caliper system. A lot of times if you're using channel locks and you push one side in or you squeeze one side in, it kind of pushes the other one out, and then you got to sit there and play back and forth with it. But with one of these, you can get nice even consistent pressure on both of them at the same time. Set that down. Take our caliper, slide it on over, grab our 14mm socket. Alright guys, and then besides putting our tire back on, we're good to go. Now it is important, if you did get any anti-seize on the rotor, take some brake cleaner, clean it up. But see, we got some here, so we'll spray that down real quick, get it cleaned up. Alright guys, I would put this back on, but when we get the car down on the ground and the weight of the car is on the tire, I'm going to go ahead and I'll actually torque all the lug nuts. So until we get our new starter sometime this afternoon, we're done for the moment. So once I get the phone call that the starter's in, I'll bring you guys back. Okay guys, so we're actually on the last step of this car, and that's getting the starter put back in here. Now, I'll be honest, I took it out earlier, and I'm honestly not too sure how I'm gonna get this new one in here, because it was in two pieces this morning, and now it's in one. What is that? Oh, that's the wire for the starter, idiot. It's actually funny, I just got a text message from somebody, and it's a super long text message, and I want to respond to it, but I'm a little preoccupied, so I asked him if I can call him in a little bit, because I'm elbows deep in an engine bay, which technically isn't true, but technically isn't wrong either. It's just, technically, I'm not in the engine bay, I'm below the engine bay, I guess. I don't freaking know, guys. All I know is this is going to be a nightmare to get up in here. Yeah, maybe not. Now, I might have spoke too soon, Bubba. If it'll go past the steerage linkage without falling on my face. Ah, yeah. All right, Infiniti. I'm not as upset about this as I was earlier, because that's actually not as bad as I thought that was going to be. I shouldn't say that yet, because it's technically not in its spot. But now it is. Alright, let's grab one of these bolts. Now one of these goes this way, I I think the upper one goes that way, and then this one goes in this way. Yeah, because I remember it almost hitting these power steering lines here and being like, really? We put a set of power steering lines in the way of the starter bolts. That's some more solid engineering. Alright, so that one bolt will hold it for a minute. Now I should be able to sneak this bolt up in here and maybe get it started without dropping everything on my face. Yeah, that's going in. Look at that. Oh, it's nice when things actually... I shouldn't say that. We still got to road test this bad boy. And before I forget about this plug, let's just go ahead. Yep, goes that way. Click. And then I honestly don't remember what size bolt these. Oh, I think they were 14s, and I used the ratchet wrench. So guys, you can do nothing like rust flakes for dinner, or a post-dinner snack, I should say. I just ate dinner. And I will say this, I'm already regretting doing arms and then coming here and having my arms over my head. Big regret, big regret. Actually, we need to reverse our wrench if we're going to go that direction with it. I always try to get everything in as much as I can by hand, because it's usually easier than trying to get a tool in somewhere and working the tool. You guys probably notice there's a lot of wet stuff down here, and there is. However, there's too much wet for me to really figure out where it's leaking from. I would have to spray everything down with parts cleaner, wipe everything down, and then probably jack the car up more and let it run, you know, and see if I can try to figure out where it's coming from. Now, there's no puddles on my garage floor, so there's nothing, you know, actively pissing itself. It's probably just seeping out of somewhere slowly over time. So it's not like a this has to get fixed right now kind of problem, but it's definitely a problem. All right, so that's that. Now we got to try to get ourselves positioned to where we can get to this nut on our solenoid, get that off, and then pull. Yeah, more rust flakes. Yeah. Pull that off and sneak it onto the stud off the solenoid. Get our nut back on that stud. You know, this is probably why. If you're a juvenile, I'd hit mute for this joke. But this is probably why mechanics are so good at their hands. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. If you don't, sucks to be you. You know, I'm not entirely. I honestly don't remember how I got to this thing earlier. It might have been up like this. Yeah, I'm going to say it was like that right there. Now remember, guys, with mechanically electronic parts such as a starter solenoid, there is a such thing as too tight. Solenoids have a habit, if you over tighten them, you can break internal pieces of them and then they don't work. So just be careful when you're tightening them on them, right? That you're not going too crazy and actually cause damage to it. Now there is a nice rubber boot, so we'll get that spun back down and push down over the top of it. Just like that, guys. Our starter is reinstalled. So now we'll get tools cleaned out from underneath the car, get the jack stand out from underneath it, put it back on the ground, torque our lug nuts to spec, and then take it for a test drive and see if that noise has gone away and if the starting issue has gone away. All right, guys, just like that, the Infiniti's done. For now, I have a funny feeling we're gonna probably see it back here soon for some rear brakes, maybe some steering components, It all depends on what he decides to do, if he wants to keep it or if he decides he's going to sell it or whatever. But for now, it's running, driving, don't have any weird noise coming from that side of the front. Definitely still has a shimmy in the brake, but I can definitely tell that it's coming from the rear, and looking at the rear rotors, it's no surprise. They look pretty similar to how our fronts looked. But at least right now, it's got brand new pads and rotors on the front. That's where we're going to end it on this one. Honestly, probably a short video, but again, I appreciate all y'all coming in, checking out the videos. If you keep coming back, I really appreciate you guys. But those of you that are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that little thumbs up button. It does the channel a lot of good, and I really appreciate it. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.